Okay, y'all, we're going to try something a little bit new today where we individually go through the notes on Google Classroom. I think this allows us to kind of go at our own pace. If you get confused or didn't hear something I say, you can always pause and kind of redo the video and rehear what I say. So we're going to try this today. Instead of me giving notes at the front of the board, you're going to be doing your notes individually here before you move into practice. So what we're going to do for our do now, we're looking at the median of the data below. Median means we put our numbers in order and then cross them off till we find the one in the middle. So first thing that I need to do is rewrite my data from least to greatest. So I see that 3 is my lowest number. Once I rewrite it down here, I cross it out so I don't get confused. 5 is my next lowest number. Then 8. Then 11, then 13, then 2 17s, and finally an 18. Now just to double check that I've gotten all my numbers, I always count the original and make sure I have the same number in the original data set as I do in the lower data set. So I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 in each. I most likely listed them in order. Okay, then I cross off 1 from each side till I find the one in the middle. So cross off the 3, pin's about to die, cross off the 18, the 17, the 5, the 8, the 17. I'm left with 2 in the middle. Okay, since I'm left with 2 in the middle, I add them together, 11 plus 13, and I divide by 2. Okay. When I plug that in my calculator, just as I see it using the fraction bar, 11 plus 13 divided by 2, that gives me 12. So my median is 12. The exact middle of my data is 12. Okay? So median is what we are going to use partially today to talk about what's called box and whisker plots. I believe you've seen these before, but it's been quite a while. It's just another way that we display data. By breaking it up, I'm going to draw a little line here, by breaking it up into what we call quartiles. Now, what in the world is a quartile? Okay. Now, make sure you are writing this down as well. Quartile means broken into 4 parts. Okay, quartile means broken into 4 parts. So for example, if I had this entire square here and I was going to break it into quartiles, I would break it into 4 even parts. So that would be quartile 1, quartile 2, quartile 3, and quartile 4. So it's broken into 4 parts, but all parts are equal. Okay? Because it's broken into 4 parts and they're all equal, that means I have 25% or 1/4 of my data in each quartile or each section, if I can speak this morning. Okay, 1/4 of my data is in this quartile or this section of the graph. 1/4 of my data or 25% is in this quartile. Same here and same here. So we're breaking something into 4 equal parts where 25% of the data is in each section. Okay? So what I want you to do next is draw an example of your own quartile shape. Essentially, draw a shape that you break into 4 parts where 25% of your data is in each one. It can be any shape, and the quartiles can be broken up into 4 sections as long as they are all equal. I'll give you a minute to do that. Pause the video, finish that, and then we are going to move on to looking at our actual box and whisker diagrams. So what we have here is a box and whisker plot. Okay. And why we call it a box and whisker plot, we've got our box section here in the middle and the whiskers at the end. Okay, so here our definition for a box and whisker plot is a data display where data is grouped into quartiles. We just talked about above, where 25% of the data is in this quartile, 25% of the data is in this quartile, 25 in this quartile, and 25 in this quartile. Okay, so we're going to label all the parts of a box and whisker plot, and today we're just working with looking at them and gathering data. Okay, so like we said before, 25% of our data is in this section, 25 is in this quartile, 25 is in this quartile, and the last 25 is in this quartile. Okay, well, what about these dots on the end here? These dots on the end are what we call outliers. So these dots here are outliers. Outliers is data that falls outside of a normal range for data. Okay, so typically an outlier is a data point we don't consider. It's typically seen as an error or a mistake. So the dots on the outside count as our outliers. Okay, we won't be dealing with these too much with box and whisker plots, but it's important to understand what they are. Okay, our next one is our lowest value. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. Our lowest value is going to be the value farthest left. So here the end of this whisker represents our lowest value. Okay, the end of this whisker here represents our lowest value. Okay, so it's our value farthest left within the box and whisker plot, to be specific. Because technically our outliers are the farthest, but when we're looking at our lowest value, we're talking about what's within our box and whisker plot. So if the one farthest left is our lowest value, makes sense that the one farthest right is our highest value. It is the value farthest right within the box and whisker plot. Okay, so our lowest value and our highest value give us the bounds or where our graph is going to fall within. Okay. Next thing we're going to look at is a phrase or a vocab word. I'm trying to fit the whole thing on here. I think it works. A phrase or a vocab word that hopefully looks familiar. It's the one we just practiced above. This is our median. Reminder that the median is when the data is in order from least to greatest. And we find the value in the middle. So we know our data is in order from least to greatest because we've got the lowest value farthest left and the highest value farthest right. So that means our median is going to be exactly in between. It's the line between our lowest and highest value. Okay? Which makes sense because if we've got 25% of the data and 25% of the data to the left of the median, together, that's 50% of the data. And then on the other side, together, that's 50% of the data. 50 is a halfway mark, so we know that if I've got 50% of the data left of the median, 50% of the data right of the median, then I know the median's right in the middle. Okay? Our lower, next we're going to get into our quartiles. Reminder that quartile means a fourth of the data. Okay, it means 25% of the data. We're going to look at our lower quartile is this box. So it's the shaded box to the left of the median. It's the shaded box to the left of the median. And 25% of our data is within the lower quartile. Okay? So it is values It's the fourth of the data that is between the median and the lowest value, closer to the median. So if our lower quartile is to the left of the median, it makes sense that our upper quartile is to the right of the median. It is the shaded box to the right of the median, and it contains 25% of the data. Okay, so we've pretty much broken down our box and whisker plot. Farthest right, we have our outliers, or farthest left or farthest right, we have our outliers. Within the plot itself, we know that our data is broken up into quarters. 25% of the data is between the lowest value and the left of the lower quartile range. 25% of the data is in the lower quartile. The median is halfway between our data. 25% of the data is in the upper quartile, and the last 25% of the data is from the upper quartile to the highest value. Okay, the very, very last thing that we're going to look at is the interquartile range. The interquartile range is just the upper quartile value minus the lower quartile value. Okay, the upper quartile value minus the lower quartile value. We don't have values on these ones, but say that this one was 20 here, and say that this one was 15 here. Our upper quartile value is 20. Our lower quartile value is 15. So my interquartile range would be 5. Okay, so that's breaking down the pieces of the box and whisker plot. What you are going to do next is you are going to work on the practice problem on the next sheet of your guided notes. Answer key will be posted on the board. Once you have gone through this one, you are going to move on to the practice problems. If you finish the practice problems, we've got a challenge one on drawing the data yourself, given some values. Okay, that's it for this video. Moving on to this practice problem, and then moving on to the practice worksheets before we take our exit ticket. That's it.